Sister. Well, he asked me to speak tonight, and I was like, what do you want me to talk about? I haven't talked in front of a group for 5 years? A little closer? Okay. So I'm like, he says, I want to hear your story. I'm like, really? You want to hear my story? I don't know that I can talk for 45 minutes about me, so here we go. And they're going to hear the whole story. We were just joking about when I was born and all that. I am going to start there, just so you know. I was born in Lincoln. My family, my parents were very young when they were married. They were not rich at all. Neither one of them graduated high school. We moved a lot. My dad ended up getting his GED and then worked his way up in all kinds of companies. I went to 13 different schools before I was a senior in high school. It was quite crazy. I really didn't know what was going on in school. I hated school. My mom hated school. She didn't really care if I went. We moved so many times. Like in 6th grade, I went to 3 different schools. Parents finally divorced when I was 13, which was not a good time for me. My dad ended up moving to New York and took off. My mom started drinking, and we moved back to Omaha. So we were there for about a year, and she got married again. We moved to Louisville, Nebraska. She married an alcoholic. And so I went to school sometimes during high school. When I graduated, I didn't graduate, I got my GED. When I quit high school, I was pregnant at 17. My GPA was about 1.7, didn't care about school. My daughter was about a year old. I married her father, got pregnant again at 19, divorced him at 20. He was starting to do drugs and wouldn't work and all of that. So there I was, a single mom in Louisville, Nebraska. We had moved to Louisville, Nebraska. Didn't have a driver's license. My stepdad would not let me get a license. He didn't think anyone over the age of 18 should drive. So I lived in a trailer in Louisville State Park, right outside there, babysat for a living. Always wanted to be a nurse, but didn't know how I was going to do that. My husband, I didn't say that, my husband Ron, who I'm married to now, he was actually my very first boyfriend in Louisville. We met when I was 15, he was 17. Dated for a few months and then broke up. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. He graduated and went to boot camp, National Guard. And so I stayed in Louisville. I hated high school. As soon as he was gone, him and his friends, I didn't have too many friends. Like I said, I ended up with a boyfriend, got pregnant, and moved into the trailer park and was raising my son and daughter. And finally, Ron and I kind of got back together. And I was, 20? So we got married when I was 21. And I had my third child at 23. We purchased our first house that we owned. I was, one we lived in when I was 24. Ron was working at Target. He was a manager. And I worked as a nursing assistant because I really wanted to be a nurse someday. And so he had transferred from Lincoln to Omaha, and we lived in Omaha. When my daughter was about 4 or 5, I started going to nursing school. And at the same time, Ron kind of switched his job from Target, and he started working at a business telephone equipment sales. And so it was kind of a risk for us because, I had to get a student loan. He was switching jobs from a management position to sales. Didn't know how we were going to do that. We had 3 little kids, and I was going to nursing school. I got the loan, started nursing school, and within a year, I was getting straight A's, so I started applying for scholarships. And I was able to get a scholarship and grant. I was going to Nebraska Methodist College of Nursing. And I ended up graduating 4 years later with summa cum laude. Yeah, got my nursing degree, Bachelor's of Science. Started working, I started in the hospital. I hated that. All I felt like I was doing was taking care of people, just running and getting things for them and doing this. I love people, but it was just not exciting at all. So I stopped doing that and I started in home care. And that was a great job at the time. I was able to go into various homes. I saw anywhere from 6 to 8 patients a day, and I was able to work around my job where I could be home with the kids if they were going to a field trip or anything like that. You know, I just kind of worked around that and did my job. I worked up quite a bit in my position, and then ended up, after the kids started getting older, into a management position. And I liked that pretty well, but after a while I got kind of tired of managing people. I was working 80, 90 hours a day, having kids, and I'm like, we like to travel. My husband and I wanted to work, you know, a little bit and travel some, but you know, it was a lot of work. And he was doing well with sales. And as the kids got older, I decided I was going to quit this management job and work at a long-term acute care hospital as a case manager, because I had been case management certified. So I went to work at this hospital, and I was there about 2 months, and I didn't really like the job very well. I didn't like the people I was working with. I liked the patients, and I was able to, hold on, I didn't bring my drink up. But I was working there about 2 months, and the CEO called myself and the director of case management into his office and said, a senior VP of corporate was in Pennsylvania and was having all kinds of trouble with getting staff for one of the hospitals. So the corporation that I worked for owned 86 hospitals. And so he wanted the director of case management to fly to Pennsylvania to help the senior VP. I was only there 2 months, so we wanted to make sure I would be okay, because he was going to leave me alone to manage the case management at this hospital. And the director was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to travel there. I can't do that. I know this senior VP and she's not nice. That was her words. So I'm like, well, I'm brand new and I like new things and I love to travel, so maybe I can do it. He's like, there's no way. You've been here 2 months, you know. So he got on the phone, her name was Adrian, the senior VP, and said, you know, my director doesn't want to do it, but I have a new person here, she might do it. And Adrian, the senior VP, says, well, I'm desperate, so send her. A couple of days later, I was in Pennsylvania at a hospital, being a case manager. I had no idea really what I was doing, but Adrian was awesome. I learned so much from her. She actually only showed up about 3 days and then left me on my own. She had hired somebody, so the second week I was training her. And then she had me stay a third week just to make sure everything was going well. But her offer was, if I stayed that second week, that weekend in between, she flew Rana, my husband, and flew him to Baltimore, let me take the rental car to Baltimore, got us a hotel, and we were able to stay on the water and enjoy a long weekend, which was awesome. So when I know, I'll get to the real estate here soon. So when I got back home in about a week, I was sitting at the office, not having too much fun, and Adrian, the VP, calls and says, hey, Cindy, I have a proposition for you. I'm like, what? She's like, I was talking to the president of the corporation, and we want to build a position like what you just did, going around all the hospitals and helping. And she says, you did such a great job. Do you think you'd take the job? It's basically a travel position, Monday through Friday, on a plane. And I'm like, oh boy, you know, it's a huge pay hike, but it's a lot of responsibility. So I went home. She told me, think it over the weekend and talk to your husband and get back to me. So I talked to Ron. At that time, our children were just getting out of the house. So my youngest was just graduated high school and was leaving. So I decided, yep, if I'm going to do this, let's do it. So I took that position, traveled Monday through Friday. It was an awesome job. Adrian would call me up and say, hey, this hospital's losing $2 million. Go figure out what's going on. I wouldn't know anything else. I just flew there and had to figure it out. My first assignment was Hawaii in January. Got there, I know, it was horrible. I was there for a month. I flew my mom there. She stayed with me for 3 weeks. They paid for us to stay, everything. And I was there. After that, I went to North Carolina. I was in this position for about 5 years, traveling basically Monday through Friday. They flew Ron to me several times where I was at, where we could travel and we'd have a long weekend, and they paid for everything. So it was a lot of fun. It's kind of helped with my love of travel. You'd think I'd be sick of it, but I wasn't. I really did not want to quit this job, but Ron was getting tired of me working Monday through Friday and being gone. While I was gone, though, I did get my master's through Nebraska Methodist College online. I needed something to do while I was sitting at the hotel by myself all week. So I did that. Well, then once Ron was tired of me traveling and stuff, I got another job. I worked for a home care health insurance company, worked in Omaha. And I only worked about 2 miles from home, but within about a year, they decided it was time for me to work from home. I had staff all over the country. I was in upper management. And so I did get to travel a little bit, but I went from full-time Monday through Friday traveling to working at home. So it was kind of crazy. I did that for a few years and then was getting kind of bored. I'm like, this isn't exciting. I'm not out, changing the world and firing CEOs and that kind of stuff. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? So all through our marriage, I told Ron, I wanna do real estate. I wanna buy a couple of rentals. And I loved real estate. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to look at houses and we'd talk about that. He was always too scared to do it, but we always talked about it. And I talked about it the whole time, every year, except for when I was traveling, I want to buy some real estate. And Ron was so conservative with his money, he's like, no way. We are not buying any real estate. And so I kept working and said, I'll take care of it. I'm bored. I want to get it done. And finally, he's like, well, we've got some money, some liquid money we can figure out, and we're going to go, we'll at least go look. So we found a realtor, had no idea what we were doing. So we're going to buy at least one property now, and then maybe a second one. And so we started looking. We thought, well, the realtor, they know real estate, right? They're going to tell us what to do. So, yeah. So we went and started looking at houses. And this was back in 2011, 2012. So it was 2012. And houses weren't that hard to get at that time, but the realtor said, well, maybe we should put in a couple offers. There's lots of investors, and so you put in 2 or 3 offers, you're likely to get one, maybe. And so we started putting in offers. And we had 2 offers, and within 2 days, they were both accepted. And now we're like, what are we going to do? We only have money for one. And we don't know anything. I don't know anything about rentals. I don't have a lease. I don't have an attorney. I don't know anything. And so we talked to the realtor. He said, oh, you'll be fine. I have a list of people. Well, we were panicked. So we're like, I don't know what to do. So I started Googling and DuckDuckGoing and everything, trying to figure out what the heck to do. And real estate education, and there's all kinds of stuff online, but I can't learn that. And I don't know how long it is before we're supposed to close. And so I found a real estate education company called Fortune Builders. I didn't know anything about that, but I'm like, we need help. And just about that time, our realtor had called and said, well, the houses we had put offers on, both of them were short sales. And they were both at different stages of the sale, thank goodness. But one of them was pretty much done, and he said, you will be closing on this one in 30 days. This one was the one that needed a full gut remodel. We don't know anything about remodeling. I don't know what we were thinking. So we didn't know anything. So when I got with the real estate education program, I talked my husband into paying for it. We're like, I don't know where we're gonna get that money. We'll probably put it on our credit card. But we need all the money we have to buy this house. And so we joined the education program. I started doing all kinds of education programs and listening. We booked with our coaches. We were trying to figure out what the heck to do. Well, quickly found out we weren't doing this right at all. When we were buying the houses, we used our own names. It was personal names. Again, we didn't know anything. And so after talking to the coaches, we went through the numbers. We were able to send them all the information on this house, and they said, well, it might be a good flip. We didn't even really know anything about flipping. I hadn't even really watched HGTV. I hadn't, So we're like, okay, let's do that. Maybe we can get some of our money back. And we did move our funds, and we were able to close on the house. And just to give you an idea of what because that was back in 2012, we purchased this house for $30,000. We put $45,000 into it. After we were lucky we found a contractor, and we were able to start 2 days after we closed. He finished that house in 3 months, and we sold it for sale by owner for $110. So we made $32,000. That was just luck. I don't know how we did it. Thank goodness the other house that was looking at purchasing was also short sale. We didn't close on that till 9 months after that house was done. However, talking with these coaches, we figured out all kinds of different ways to fund deals. So just talking to them, they were telling us about private money, about hard money lending, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Why would people loan me money? Well, after talking to them, we were doing all kinds of networking. We were going to meetings like this and talking to people. And we ran into a couple of different couples that were just starting in real estate investing and didn't know a whole lot either. So I was talking to them, it's like, have you ever thought about a self-directed IRA? We have some IRA funds that we might move over. And they're like, yeah, we all have, all of them had some IRAs. So we formed what was called a lending group. We called it our lending group. And so we had 6 different couples. We all transferred some of our IRA funds into self-directed IRAs, and we started lending to each other. Because I don't know, with self-directed IRAs, any money that you make has to go back into the self-directed IRA. And that's great. The whole reason we were doing this was to help our retirement portfolio. I mean, when we started this, our goal was 2 to 3 houses, just so that we could have a little bit better retirement and travel. I mean, we figured we'd retire at 68, have a decent retirement, because we made pretty good money, but then we'd have a couple of houses that we could have rent and make some money to travel. So anyway, we got this group going, and we all transferred our funds. Well, what happened is one of the couples only purchased 2 houses, which we funded. One of the couples purchased another house at a different time, which we funded. The other couples didn't purchase anything. And so within a year, the only ones that were buying any houses was Ron and I. But they still all let us borrow their funds. And so we were borrowing it at 6%, and it was guaranteed funds. So we had several pools of money. The other thing too is Ron and I, since we weren't being able to lend our money, we started lending outside of the group at 12%. So we were making money there too. So after that, we also talked to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was having difficulty. She just lost her husband, and they had lost their jobs right before that, and she was going to school as an LPN and was having trouble making ends meet. She lives in Murdoch, and she had quite a bit of equity in her house. And so we were talking about this private lending, and she was like, I cannot afford to live. I'm making like $300 less than what I can, what I need to live on. And so we talked her into getting an equity line of credit. At that time, they were only 2%, and then we borrowed it at 6%. And we didn't put a lien, we didn't have a deed of trust or anything. We just did a promissory note. We kept her money, and we paid her interest every month, which put her $500 extra a month so she could pay all of her bills. She loved it. She was so happy with that. She was telling everybody about it. So my in-laws decided to get in on the deal, and my in-laws talked to my parents, and so my dad got in on the deal. So we had even more access to money. I know, that was our second year. So we were able to start doing houses. We had a lot of trouble finding contractors, but we were able to get them, and so we were doing a couple houses at a time. That first year, even before we closed on the second house, we had purchased 3 other houses. We ended up flipping 2 and keeping 1. We also purchased a couple houses in Tennessee. That was from a company that they purchased the house, they renovate, and they put tenants in it and property manage. We did okay with those, but not great. We ended up selling those a couple years ago. Definitely didn't make as much money on those as we do the ones in Omaha. By our 3rd year, we were buying houses by quite a bit. We were doing 2 or 3 at a time. we flipped several houses, bought several, and then by the 4th year, we finally found a good contractor. He said he really wanted to work with us. He was doing all of our houses. He said he would hire some people, which he did. And so at that time, we told him, hey, you're doing great with this. And he was really interested in what we were doing. He wanted to buy some houses. So we said, you keep working for us. You help renovate our houses. We'll teach you what we do. So he bought a couple of houses, and he's been our contractor ever since. Also during this whole time, Fortune Builders, we were still talking to coaches and being involved. I became a Fortune Builder coach. I was shocked when they asked me. This is like our 2nd year. That really kind of helped quite a bit. I don't necessarily recommend that for everybody. You can get a lot of information from here, but we were so desperate because we didn't know what we were doing, and it did help what we did. But my becoming a coach, I really learned a lot from a lot of the students, and I also learned a lot from networking with the other coaches. We did a lot of traveling with the coaches, and we were in the Bahamas and stuff, and networking with these people that were doing a lot of high-end deals. One of the things I found that was kind of a trap, though, was we were going so fast and doing so well, and I was talking to all these people that were doing lots and lots of things. We kept changing our goal. Originally it was 2 to 3 houses, then it was 5 to 10 houses, then it was 20 houses, and we just kept going. And I was like, what is our end goal here? What do we want? We started this to help our retirement, and we want to travel. We want to have fun. I don't want to spend my life working all the time. I've worked hard my whole life. I was a teenage mom. I had kids that never really lived alone, and I wanted to have fun. So we kept buying some houses, and I had to kind of slow down a little bit. By our 7th year, we had 40 houses, and decided that was probably enough. So we kind of stopped buying houses at that time. That was about 2019. My husband had quit his job. We told him we had totally replaced his position by 2016. In 2019, I quit my nursing job to stay home, and we found that with 40 houses, we wanted to property manage, and we could take care of it ourselves, as with the 2 of us, and only working part-time. We got a system called Goldeez, where our tenants pay rent, and they can put in maintenance requests. Our contractor that we're helping do this too, he does a lot of the maintenance for us. We have a couple other maintenance companies that go out, so we work when we want to. We travel a lot. Now, because good deals just kind of happen every once in a while. We have 45. We are done. That's the final answer. However, our daughter and son-in-law decided they want to buy houses too. So we have purchased 3 in the last year with them. We're 50% owners, and they're supposed to be doing all the work. We also own one with our grandson. Yeah, he's an adult, and he wanted to buy one, so I'm hoping he'll have several by the time he's 25. But we've been doing this. It took us 7 years to replace our income, and we travel now. We're gone almost all winter. One of the strategies we did with our rentals, because we want to manage ourselves, is all of our leases come due between April 1st and August 15th. So that way, we like the year. I know some people want 30-day, and there's good things for that too, but we don't want our tenants leaving very often outside that April 1st through August 15th, so we can travel. So that's our busy time. And even with that, I only work a few hours a day, so does Ron. If we have a house that's turning over, it's a little bit more than that. But most of the time we do travel in between. We go to bed and breakfast for the weekend and all that, even during our busy time. Outside of that, all summer or all winter long, we travel. A few years ago, we went on 2 cruises and into Florida, and then went to Mexico. Last year, we went to Florida. We went on a 14-day cruise and then a 5-day cruise after that, and went to Costa Rica. This year, we're leaving Thanksgiving We're heading to Australia and then going to New Zealand. That'll be an interesting trip. We've been all over the world, but I've never done an actual tour. This is a tour company that we're going with. We fly from Omaha to Los Angeles, 15-hour trip to Australia. It's a 23-day tour. So there's all kinds of flights and different things going around there. I think it's going to be a whirlwind. I don't know. I hope I enjoy it. But part of the reason we're going to Australia is we had a foreign exchange student live with us back in 2013, 14. She is graduating with her master's. She's from Australia, and she's a dual citizen of China and Australia, mostly from Australia. And so she's there finishing. We're going to go to her graduation, which is in December. So after we're done with our tour, we end in New Zealand, and then we're going to go fly back to Brisbane, Australia, and spend a couple days with her. So I know that's kind of quick, but
that's great.
Yeah. Any questions or?
Did you say, how do you find all these houses? Is it just a realtor or?
Pretty much, and that's a good question. When we first started, we started all the marketing type things. I have nothing against marketing. You know, we did signs, we did postcards, letters, all kinds of things. We found that we had found a really good realtor that did a lot of investments, and we were buying them fairly quick, and she started helping with pocket listings and just word of mouth, and a lot of times it was at meetings like this. We found a lot of good deals just talking to people. One of the things that we did is our contractor that I'm talking about is actually Hispanic, and he's very integrated into the Hispanic world in Omaha, and they talk a lot, and they actually purchase a lot of things. They like to buy their houses or whatever, so we find deals through him a lot of times. He just kind of knows people, and he's out, and so we find deals through him as well.
Are all your properties in the Omaha area, or do you have any throughout the United States?
We had those 2 in Tennessee, which we sold, but the rest of them were all right in Omaha. We actually moved. We live like the 90th and Pacific area, which is kind of in the middle of where all of our properties are. So that Ron doesn't, he'll do maintenance once in a while. He likes to do that. He likes to cut trees. I don't know why. So he'll do the tree trimming. Saves us thousands of dollars. That's fine. But we pretty much do work when we want to. If we have a tenant moving in, we have a system where we put a lockbox on. They can pay the rent through there. We don't even have to be there. But we work. We think we're too young to completely retire. So our plan now is to sell the properties or put them in property management. I'm worried about property management because my husband is very controlling when it comes to the properties. He does inspections twice a year, goes through every property, and then, and it's not just for us, it's for the tenants too. If there's little issues, we can get them fixed or whatever. And part of it too is because we want to be gone. We're gone a lot. And so we want to be up front and make sure we get things fixed so we don't have any issues while we're out of the country. Our contractor, Freddie, also will take calls for us and stuff too when we're out, but still we want to be proactive. And so we try to do everything we can before we leave. Any other questions?
What are you using for, do you have any technology you're using for rent collection?
Buildium.
You use Buildium?
Yeah. We like Buildium. We do all the accounting. I enter all the accounting each week. They can pay their rent through there. I like it because it all automatically goes in there. It's pretty easy for me. I literally work 2 to 3 hours a day, and that's on a hard day. So we also own, I didn't say that, our daughter, when she graduated high school, or graduated college, she was a culinary chef in restaurant management. And she wanted to own a bar and grill. And so she put together a business plan and talked to us. We had knew nothing about restaurant, and I don't recommend it. But right. But we did allow her to purchase it. We helped fund it, of course. This was a long time ago. I guess she's older now, she has 5 kids, married. We've had the Cove, this Cove Lounge and Grills for 16 years. We don't do any of the day-to-day stuff. I do pay the bills and we kind of run the bank type thing because it's our money. We want to make sure we get it back. It's been very good for her. And then we also purchased another bar and grill that my daughter and son-in-law help run. They do all the day-to-day management stuff. And so we have that income that comes in too. We loaned them quite a bit of money over the years and they're paying us back now. So it was a good investment, but not something I would ever want to do. And if I had to do it over again without her, no, I wouldn't do it. Yep.
When you're evaluating deals, what is your cash flow that you're expecting out the lease?
Yep, that's a good question. Originally, when we first started, after everything, we wanted to make $300 to $400 a month per house. Also, we wanted to maintain at least a 30% equity. And what I mean by that is when we purchased the house, we wanted, if we bought a house for $75,000 and put $25,000 in it, obviously we have $100,000 in it plus some holding cost. We'd want to get, we wanted it to be worth $130,000, $140,000, $150,000 so that we'd only have to get a loan for $100,000 just to get our money back out and still have all that equity. And right now we own about 75% equity in those houses. And just because we tried to maintain that and make sure that we're not overextending and stuff, which was very helpful with us getting those properties too. Because when we were trying to get loans, when we get the rentals, what we did was we used private money to fund everything. They paid 100% of everything. And then we'd get a loan and pay that back 100% to our private lenders. And we got a commercial mortgage is what it's called. We amortize at 20 years, but it's a 5-year loan. So that's how we did that. So we didn't use hardly any of the first house was about the only house we had that we used a lot of our own cash on. Any other questions?
Do you finance any of the deals that you have for the Hispanics?
Yes.
Can you tell a little bit about that?
We use our self-directed IRA, and we have to know know them or have a good recommendation or whatever. But yeah, we just lend. It depends. I think right now, like for Freddie, we do 8 or 9%. It might be a little bit more now that the interest rates are going up. Anyone that we don't know very well or is outside of that little group, we don't have the couples anymore, but we have a little group that we lend to. If anyone outside of that, it's usually about 12%.
What's the, tell us what the deal is. How long?
Sorry.
How long do you have those?
A lot of times we will put a promissory note on there, and it's usually for a year. We'll let it go for a year, and then we do a deed of trust, and we do that, and we take them downtown and get them registered and everything after that. But there's no payments, no, except for interest payments for that year. Most of the time we get the money back in 3 or 4 months. Our contractor, Freddie, he'll keep the money for as long as he can keep it, a lot of times until he's ready for the next one, and then he'll go get the loan and do it again.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
So what went south in Tennessee, and what would you do differently in the next,
Yeah, what went south is my husband's too controlling, and once he figured out how to property manage himself, he didn't like how anyone else did it. So he was getting frustrated with the property management. We switched property management a couple times. He was throwing a fit because they always charge more for maintenance. We have a maintenance guy that doesn't charge very much because we're lending money to him. So we get a good deal. So you get someone outside of that, and he's like, this is not working. We can make more money. So we just sold those and paid down some of our loan. So it wasn't, we made money, but it wasn't great. It was nice though, because we didn't have to do anything. We literally just got a check every month. Yep.
With your passion for traveling, why haven't you bought real estate where you travel to, like Florida or the Bahamas or?
Because my husband won't let someone else manage them.
That's a true story.
Very true story. I'm so worried about, we were thinking about putting a couple of the properties into property management because we can't decide whether we want to sell them or keep them. You know, I want to sell them, but right now I don't know if it's a great time to sell. You know, our kids want them, and I'm like, how are we going to do that? Because, you know, those nasty investors want to sell below, or they want to buy below market. And our children are those nasty investors. So, I did this for my retirement. I want to make a good deal for them, but I want to be able to travel and do what I want to. So we got to figure out how to make that work. So Ron and I are talking about maybe we should put them into property management for a while. They're going to get them anyway. Eventually, we're going to die. So, maybe we put them. But I don't know if Ron can handle that. He said he would try it. We might do 2 or 3, but I feel sorry for those people, whoever we choose. He's already talking about they're going to have to do inspections, and if they won't do it, I'm going to do it. And they're going to, okay. Yeah, thank you for having me.